Hey, Tara. Tara. I'm sorry. Oh, goodness. Forgive me. And for anyone who comes in person now and I don't recognize you, it's because everyone's wearing a mask and I'm so used to seeing people on Zoom. So I'm like not recognizing people in person, which is crazy. So forgive me for that if you come in person and I don't recognize you. Hey, Kurt. No, you're right on time. I think everyone else is running late. We had a little bit of excitement here because we had a bunch of rain and some water leaked in under the door here in the Kadampa. So I arrived to some water on the floor. Everything's fine. It's all cleaned up and dried. And then the big gold Buddha statue that's outside in the garden, there was a little roof that partially got blown off. So that is being moved inside. So there's a little bit of excitement happening here this evening. But as soon as Dawn gets here, we'll get started. So you guys just sit back, relax. Let me know if you have any questions though. And this is our last class for Bodhicitta. And then we actually have a 3-week break. Okay, so 3 weeks, there will not be any Discovering Buddhism. We will start back on June 20th. And that will be for Transforming Problems. And our teacher for that will be Robbie Watkins, Transforming Problems. It's a good one. I mean, they're all good, but it's Transforming Problems is one I find very helpful. Chris is saying it's in the top 12. All right. Any questions or anything?
How many weeks will that module be?
Oh, that's a good question. That one is 6 sessions, so 6 weeks. So from June 20th to August 1st. And hello, folks on YouTube. We will get started in just a few minutes. We're waiting for our instructor, Don Brown, to get here. He should be here momentarily. So sit tight, type in the chat if you have any questions for me or anything. And just another reminder in case there's some folks joining who didn't hear that we have a 3-week break and then we come back June 20th for Transforming Problems. And Dr. Robbie Watkins will be teaching that session. And it looks like Dawn has arrived. So we'll get started in just a moment. Hey, Dawn.
So I'm going to start out by doing 3 prostrations. Excuse me. No, I don't think so, because everything's been that I would write has been handed out, right? It's in the handouts. So let's see. You don't see these anymore. They disappeared.
It's a vintage Kadampa Center bag. That's nice.
Yeah. So what? I didn't hear it. I heard it, but I didn't hear it. All right, so this is the last class on Buddy Cheetah. And as I was talking to Rob, he said, "Is that class still going on?" I said, "Yeah. We got work to do." Okay. Tonight's quiz night. Just kidding. I'm not a big fan of doing quizzes. There are people here we could, in the classroom and stuff, we could do quizzes, but it's not. It's much more fun if you have a little group of people together, so everybody's spread out. So it's not going to happen. Excuse me. Is that a bottle of water handy? I appreciate it. No problem. What do I do with that darn? Stop. Thank you. That's fine. Perfect. Perfect. This is good. Okay. All right. Thank you. Well, let's start out with a few short breathing meditation, and then we'll go from there. So sit up straight in your chair, on your cushion, wherever you're seated, and start out with 3 deep breaths, kind of expanding your belly, and then exhaling. And we'll start out like that. And then just allow your mind to follow the natural in and out of the breathing. And it's allergy season. Yeah, you just follow the breath. Now, can you put the prayers up, Linda? Pardon? Yeah. Are they supposed to show up there? Yeah. Okay. All right. So we'll do the refuge and bodhicitta prayer. And remember that, so whenever you do that, it's always important just to briefly reflect on what, the right attitude to have for going for refuge and taking refuge and going for bodhicitta. And that is that we talked about this many times, but it's, the first is dread, fear. And the texts say the fear of the three lower realms. So I don't know, that's, most most of us don't have any experience, at least memorable experience of the three lower realms. So I don't know how motivating it is for people. The hell realm and the hungry ghost and the animal realm, they're characterized by animal realm by ignorance, and the hungry ghost realm by miserliness, and the hell realm by anger. But it's much like anything that's heavy negative would be something that could project our mind into any of these realms. But the heavier negativity, the more hellacious the rebirth and so forth. So, having some faith in rebirth and future lifetimes and like that, and realizing that the mind creates everything that is possible that if we just are under the influence of the negative, self-cherishing, egocentric mind, that the actions that follow will project us into some kind of joyless realm in the future. And so if we're afraid of that, we don't want it. At the very least, we dread the thought of it. If you have some faith, otherwise you just blow. You don't have to think about it, but it's a powerful way to make your refuge practice a strong one. So again, dread of the three lower realms, and then confidence in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha to guide you. So you have to have some. How do you get confidence or faith in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha? I guess one way would be to be in the presence of a really extraordinary holy being who was the fruit of the practice, you might say. Someone like the Dalai Lama, for example, or Lama Zopa Rinpoche, or Lama Yeshe, people who are like they do this practice and clearly they're operating on a different realm than we are, or at least I am. And so we develop faith. This is, I think, maybe the most helpful thing about having a really close relationship with a great teacher, is that it gives you tremendous inspiration and faith to want to practice. So that's important. And then, and also, excuse me, also you have to have some confidence that you can do it. Most of us, having faith in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha to guide me from my present state of confusion and self-centeredness to supreme enlightenment. It's a little hard to even imagine. So we have to have some faith in our Buddha nature. And sometimes there are actually meditation practices, one called Mahamudra, where you're really meditating to actually get a taste of that pure essence that is the mind. And we begin to realize that the mind, sort of like I'm holding my fist, like the mind is layered over by layer after layer after layer of delusions. And at the core of our mind is this pure light, unlimited potential mind. And we have to say those words doesn't really not going to get you out of bed. The only way to have true faith in, I think, in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha is, again, to have a teacher who's an extraordinary exemplar of those qualities, and they inspire you, or you practice and you begin to see your mind shifting from wherever you were to a direction you want to be going in, which is less suffering, less stress, better relationships, happier, healthier, all of that. When you see that, then faith is kind of a natural outgrowth of that. And then lastly is compassion. We go for refuge out of compassion for ourselves, and also compassion for all beings, because what we're trying to do is achieve a state of, way beyond what ordinary beings are able to achieve just by going through the motions of living, to become an arhat or a Buddha and to be able to really help others. So, we have to have compassion for ourselves and compassion for others to take refuge as well. So again, there's dread or fear of the lower realms, of an uncontrolled mind and the consequences of it. There's faith, confidence. The Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha can guide us. And then there's this compassion, which is always key, and it comes up again and again in Buddhism. That's why we, as we say these lines, these refuge and bodhicitta lines, that's what we need to think of. But remember, the first two lines distinguish a Buddhist from a non-Buddhist, and the second two lines distinguish someone who practices the Mahayana path, which is this path where, again, bodhicitta, where we dedicate our practice to the benefit of all living beings, not just about us. And now we can do the prayers. All right. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. And may all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. And may all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. And then the last is the mandala offering. It's kind of a traditional thing, but it just is a way of expressing how precious you think the teachings are, that you're willing to offer everything in the universe to be able to receive these teachings. This ground anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this is the Buddha field and offer it. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. Idam Guru Radha Mandala Kamne Yatayame. So, before we get started, we've had a bit of attrition, which is fairly typical from my classes. But I guess it happens in all of discovering Buddhism. A lot of work, a lot of time, and I appreciate the time that people have taken out of their busy lives to participate to whatever degree you have. But any questions? Because I haven't really paused much because there's kind of a lot of things I wanted to touch on. But any questions that you have about anything, really, but in particular, bodhicitta would be relevant to our class.
And Don, there are about 7 people watching on YouTube. So for those joining us that way, please leave questions in the chat box, and I'm monitoring that and can pass those questions on to Don. And if you're on Zoom, just simply raise your hand or unmute yourself, and we can answer questions that way, or ask questions that way, sorry.
Nada?
I have one.
Okay.
So I have a love of animals, like all animals. And in some of the Buddhist prayers, I think it's even in Tonglen, if I'm not mistaken, you think about, releasing the negativity in the form of black smoke or scorpions, and I can't remember, the spiders, I think is one. And that's always, it's never really set right with me, because aren't they also sentient beings that we should be having compassion for?
Yeah, they are. But that's, it's the point. The point is, it could be just mud. It doesn't have to be, but it's just, when you think of, a lot of people, when they see a scorpion, I don't know if you've ever seen a big scorpion. I saw a scorpion one time. I swear it was the size of a lobster. That scared me. It was like, ah. So the whole point is, it's, when you are doing purification practice, you imagine that you're exhaling, dark smoke and and like just pollution, could be scorpions, spiders, snakes, anything that ordinarily would cause you to kind of, I mean, for ordinary people to kind of go, "Eee, yuck." That's the point of it, is so you're letting go of stuff that's not, that is, that you don't want, that you don't want to hold on to. And if you, I mean, the easy answer is if it doesn't work for you, don't do it. That's the easy answer.
Right, okay.
Yeah, you
That's
can-
what I figured, but I
Yeah.
just, it seems to me that it would just propagate that, that negativity towards those
It
beings.
could, it could, and that's why you wouldn't want to do it if you found that was, I mean, some people like insects, and if you find that it causes problems for you that way, you don't do it. But I mean, we do a lot of things, do a lot of weird, unusual visualizations, particularly in Buddhism, to develop the mind. We're using the mind to develop the mind, and if it doesn't work for you, then you don't do it. I remember George Dreyfus, who was also known as Sangye Sangdup. He was the first Westerner. Anyway, I met him back in the old days, and he was a professor at Williams College at some point, but he was a monk for 20 years before that. And he came and gave some teachings, and he said the most profound teachings, because everybody wants to go, oh, Tantra, that's so great. The most profound teachings are the teachings on emptiness, or the teachings on or highest yoga tantra, or generation of completion stage, and all that kind of stuff. And he said, and I think this is true. The most profound teachings are the ones that affect your mind, that move your mind in a positive direction. So for some people, meditation on bodhicitta, I particularly find that helpful. I also find meditation on death and impermanence very inspiring, in a sense that it makes me aware of the moment and how precious it is. And so there are lots of, it just depends. Whatever is most, whatever works for your mind, because we're all so different. Yeah. Any questions about renunciation, bodhicitta, emptiness? Those are the main points, but mainly bodhicitta. And we haven't talked about ultimate bodhicitta, but that's emptiness. Same thing. Any questions, comments?
So to repeat that question, Kurt, let me make sure I got it. Kurt's asking if Don can expound on commenting on people that are hostile, abusive in the practice of bodhicitta.
Well, so what do you, I'm going to throw it back. What do you think the answer is? If you could make one up.
Well, some psychiatrists would tell you to run as quick as you could, right, and get away. And I guess the Buddhist philosophy would be to show compassion and try to work with them.
Work with that person. Yeah. I mean, I've got a handout here that we're gonna post for everybody to have. But it's, the second point of the third point of this is an excerpt from teachings that I got many, many years ago. Actually, yeah, I can't remember too many details, but I took notes. It said, this one's very relevant to that. Create a special relationship with people who are nasty to you. One good enemy at work is more precious than the Dalai Lama for you. We will learn more from adversity than 10 days of teachings from the Dalai Lama. So, what is that all about? I mean, that's all about Mahayana mind training, isn't it? It's about, and I'll try to tie it back to bodhicitta. I'm not sure I'm going to be successful, but it's who teaches us patience? Certainly not our friends. That's kind of probably why we call them friends. And people who push our buttons, who give us a hard time, who are nasty to us, who are even evil in a way toward us, give us an opportunity to not only experience the fruit of our own past negative karma, so we get to be responsible for everything anyway, from a Buddhist perspective, but it also gives us an opportunity to reframe that situation, because it is empty. It's not inherently good or bad, is it? I mean, it might be painful from a relative perspective. It might be bad, but from an ultimate perspective, it's empty. And so we have the power to interpret. If somebody embarrasses me in front of a lot of people, or criticizes me in a really negative way, or even harms me, I have the opportunity to see that person as completely bad and, like inherently evil or bad, which we know is not true. Or I can see them as suffering sentient beings whose behavior is based on delusion, based on their lack of compassion and their lack of wisdom. And not only that, but what I'm experiencing in this particular circumstance is the fruit of my own former actions coming back to me. And karma is what goes around comes around. So there's in Shantideva, in the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, there's one stanza in there talking about the so-called enemy, and like if the enemy hits you with the stick, you don't get angry at the stick, you get angry at the person wielding the stick. Well, in the case of us receiving harm from others, the other person is likened to the stick. And the real cause of us being harmed are our own former actions motivated by self-cherishing. And at a deeper level, self-grasping ignorance, because that's the root of samsara. So again, we can use these situations whenever we experience negativity. We're expending negative karma, so that karma is finished. We don't have to suffer again. Like Buddhists in particular, I mean, this sounds weird, but typically, I've heard people say, the Tibetans, if your house burns down, they actually think that's a good thing, because you got rid of all that stuff you didn't need, and you used up a lot of negative karma. Well, I think it's probably not the truth, completely the truth, but it's possible to see heavy negative situations as positive. It's a way to, again, it's the fruition of past negative karma ripening, so it's finished. It's an opportunity for us to develop inner strength or patience. Without patience, patience is one of the 6 perfections, right? Patient endurance. That's one of the 6 perfections of the bodhisattva. So without bodhisattva, without patience, with the perfection of patience, there are no bodhisattvas. Without bodhisattvas, there are no Buddhas. So if you want to get really down to the nitty gritty, we need difficult situations and people for there to be enlightened beings. Kind of strange, sounds strange to say it that way. As far as how it ties in with bodhicitta, I think, bodhicitta is all about, at the end of the day, it's the supreme antidote to selfishness. and our self-cherishing mind, our self-centeredness. And, I'm going to dedicate my life to become enlightened in order primarily, the principal motivation is to benefit others. Not a word about me. I'm going to lead beings from suffering and help establish them in supreme enlightenment. And I'm going to do that. And the method I'm going to do it is to clean up my own messes and cultivate my own good qualities. And that's called, and become a Buddha. I'm going to become a Buddha so I can help others. And so in a real way, who needs that more than somebody who's so deluded that they're harming people and not even aware of the consequences of it, So a Buddha wouldn't, in a situation like that, an enlightened being, someone who'd actually realized bodhicitta and became a fully enlightened Buddha, wouldn't get angry at all. They would have complete, I can imagine their response would be compassion. Everybody, wow, so sad that this person is behaving this way, and it's terrible. It's a lot of suffering now, but also a lot of suffering in the future. So that's my long-winded, sort of all over the place answer. Anybody else have any other thoughts about that? Okay. So we're just going to go over have to touch on these 12 points, or 11 or 12 points, whatever, one more time. So these are the things that everybody should have memorized, hopefully. So we'll touch on them briefly, but I want to go and so the three principles of the path, that's renunciation, right? Renunciation, the determination to be free. The second one is bodhicitta. That's where this class fits in. And then the third is the correct view of emptiness. And this class is about developing what's called conventional bodhicitta. And then ultimate bodhicitta has to do with emptiness. And so when we talk about renunciation, remember we're talking about this determination to be free, okay? And of course, it comes back to, well, do I even have the potential to be free of suffering? Do we even believe that? Is it, or is it just a pipe dream? And honest to goodness, I think there's still something I'm working on personally in my own practice, is to develop more confidence in my potential to do it. But I don't think it's very easy to fully embrace the Dharma when you don't think you have any potential to make, some fundamental changes in your attitude. That is becoming, and I'm speaking specifically about becoming more patient, more kind, more wise, more compassionate, have greater ability to say and do what's necessary in any given situation to help other people. Those are all being some of the qualities of the Buddha. Well, we have some of that, right? We all have some of that. And that's all. We just have to acknowledge that we have a little bit of all of these qualities that make up an enlightened being. And so we need to develop faith, have some sense that we can make some progress on the spiritual path. Otherwise, we're just kind of, there's no power in our practice. There's no results. And we want results. We don't want to be here just spinning our wheels. Just knowing these words is almost worthless. Being able to sit here and say these words are read these texts, it doesn't mean a whole lot. I mean, I guess it means something, but it doesn't really make a big difference in my life. It's being able to put these teachings into practice in daily life. For example, Tong Lin, like, you're sitting in front of a really jerky person, somebody who's giving you a really hard time. And you see that, and you're not tagged by it. Your ego's, ordinarily ego goes, we want to recoil and maybe even retaliate. But somehow this time we've been able to maintain our composure. And, we see this person who's being a jerk and causing all kinds of suffering. And we imagine that suffering and we take it into our heart, and it destroys our self-cherishing selfishness. And we imagine that our mind is, our body is completely full of light, the light of love and acceptance and compassion. And we send them back this light, and they don't even know what we're doing because we're doing it all in our own mind. We're practicing this, but this is something that we're doing within our own mind at the time we're confronting difficult situations or people. And it's a very powerful technique to be able to do that. Not easy, because most of us are not mindful of bodhicitta. If you went to the Lamp of the Path retreat, the last one, there were booklets out on being mindful of bodhicitta. Remember those books, Linda? Yeah, there's like, there must have been 30, 40, 50 different things to do to help you be mindful of bodhicitta. Like, for example, when you open the door and walk in the room, you imagine, okay, I'm opening the door and liberating all sentient beings from the hell realms, and when you drink water, you go, okay, I'm taking sustenance so that I can stay healthy, so I can practice, so then I can really, become a Buddha and be able to benefit all sentient beings. It's like that. There were just hundreds of things where the point is to always be thinking of others, of how my actions could be beneficial to others. This is bodhicitta mindfulness. All right, so we're getting back to the three principles of the path. So, the first is renunciation, this determination to be free. And again, I said, it's some people say it's like having compassion for yourself, realizing that you are caught in this, that you're suffering. You realize that you're sick. And it's not just, it's the pain of dukkha of just suffering, the suffering of change, where everything that's pleasant, everything that we now label as pleasurable and wonderful and desirable, always evolves and it ends. And then we're always left wanting more and being dissatisfied. And Lama Zopa says that's the worst suffering in samsara. And then there's the and then the most difficult kind of suffering for us to see, the dukkha, for us to see is the fact that we're out of control. So we don't have any control over our future or over our mind, even from moment to moment. Very, very little control. And it's suffering of, it's called pervasive suffering. So there's suffering of pain, suffering of change, and pervasive suffering. And I've thought a little bit about this weekend, because it's like, I've heard it's described as like having this 3rd-degree burn on your arm, and it always hurts. It always hurts. And now some people are going to probably disagree with me, but it's saying it's like having a burn on your arm. It always hurts. And then you pour some cool water over it, and for a moment there's some relief. And we go, oh, that feels so much better. That's, we have some temporary relief, but it's just temporary. It's not, and then we're right back into into this, what's called pervasive suffering. And in Buddhism, Buddhism is not negative this way. I think it's realistic. I think that life is suffering for most people. We're mostly motivated by our self-centeredness, and that can only cause problems. And so this pervasive suffering talks about that, but it also talks about how we're caught in this cycle of death and rebirth, life after life after life. We're reborn out of ignorance. You know, ignorance is the way we could get free, but we haven't developed wisdom. So we go through this whole cycle of death and rebirth and death and rebirth and death and rebirth. And as one teacher said, you know, the number, if we could stack up all of our skeletons on top, one on top of the other, you know, it'd fill up the whole world. That's how many times we've been born and died, and we're still here suffering. We never got free. You know, so we're caught up in this process of uncontrolled causation. Our negative mind is just always perpetuating itself. So that's, you know, so we want to be, we have compassion for ourselves to want to be free of that. And we have some faith, some confidence that we can do that. So that's and then we have this determination to be free. It's compassion for yourself, this determination to be free. And we did a couple of meditations to talk about this earlier. The first one we did was on death, you know, on impermanence, really. We talked about how, you know, I could die any minute. You know, everybody dies. I could die any minute. And the only thing that's going to help me when I die is the strength of the spiritual imprints that I put on my mind. You know, we could die any minute. Life is so precious. It is so precious. And from a Buddhist perspective, it's precious because we can use this life to become free of suffering. You know, we have freedoms and endowments. We are free, you know, we have a mind that works, we have a body that works. We're in a free country where we can practice the Dharma without being persecuted and so on. We have amazing freedoms, and then we endow with a mind that we've met the teachings, we've met teachers that have actually realized the teachings. We have an interest in the teachings. We have the leisure to practice. So many things have come together for us to be able to practice the Dharma now, and it's before it's too late, because we could die any minute. It's a precious life. It could be over any minute. It's so precious because we could use this life to become free. Let's don't waste it. And then the other 2 points were karma. Remember, karma is definite. Positive leads to happiness. Negative leads to suffering. Karma is expandable. You know, tiny little seeds of positivity or negativity can expand. A little acorn can become a huge tree. Karma is expandable. We need to be aware of that. Take every opportunity to practice the causes of happiness, which is plant the seeds of virtue. And then we cannot experience the result without creating the cause. So everything, we're never, ever, ever a victim, because we're always experiencing the consequences of what goes around comes around. It's not to say that we're bad people, because nominally, if somebody came in and blew us all away, we'd say, well, there were 4 victims, or 5, excuse me, Chris is not in here. There's just 4. You know, although 4 people were victimized by mass murder at Kadampa Center. But from our perspective as a Buddhist, we say, well, that's my karma. I did that to somebody in a former lifetime, and now that's happening to me. That's how a Buddhist would think about it. So what goes around comes around. We cannot experience a result without having created the causes. And lastly, karma is never lost. And then we talked about dukkha, remember just a moment ago, about how the future is going to look like the past. The past has been suffering, suffering, right? Suffering of pain, change, and pervasive. And then when we put these 2 things together, karma and dukkha, we go, wow, well, I can't wait to some future lifetime to practice the Dharma, because it's going to look bad, because most of my actions have been motivated by selfishness, and they're going to lead to suffering. I got to do something about it in this lifetime. I can't procrastinate. Okay. So again, this is all of this packed together. If we think about it, if we put some thought into it, it makes us want to be free. I want to be free. I have the determination to be free of suffering. And without that, that's kind of like the rocket fuel. In other words, if you're sick, if you're vomiting up blood and you don't think you're sick, you won't go see help. There's a saying, what's the best way to keep a prisoner in jail? For them not to recognize that they're in jail. They won't try to get out. So we have to recognize that we're in jail and then have this determination to be free. Okay. So that becomes the catalyst for then the next motivations on bodhicitta. So what were the 11 points in developing bodhicitta? The first one was equanimity, having equal regard for all beings. It's not easy to do. It's not easy to do. Remember we took a friend, a stranger, and a so-called enemy, somebody we felt aversion toward. And we looked at these three categories of beings. We realized we're trying to develop unbiased universal compassion, which means we can't exclude the strangers and the enemies. It has to be everybody. So we're trying to develop equal regard for all beings. Well, a couple of ways we can think about it to develop it. Number one is that we all want the same. We all want to be happy and we don't want to suffer. And in past lifetimes, everybody's been family to one another. That person's been a friend, it's been an enemy. We can see how relationships are so changeable. They're not concrete. And so we realize that these labels are merely labels and they can change from moment to moment. So that's the foundation for any practice of compassion, universal compassion. You have to have equanimity, this equal regard for all beings. Then we talked about seeing all beings as mother. Our mother of this life has been our mother in the past life. She'll be our mother in the future life. All beings have been my mother. Everybody in this room has been my mother. Everybody I see has been my mother. It's actually quite a powerful practice. I think I told you, Lama Yeshe used to always call everybody dear. You know, I mean, and I'm imagine that he saw everybody as like his dear mother, kind mother, sentient being. So everybody has been our mother. And then we remember the kindness of all beings, not just when they were mothers, because that is the most powerful relationship. But even in today's life, I mean, our body is not our body. This is the gift of our parents, sperm and egg. That's where this came from. And everything that I know is the product of what's been taught to me, the clothes that I wear, the places that I go, the cars, everything depends on others. So we are the recipient of incredible kindness from others. And we want to, so with those contemplations of seeing everyone as mother, remembering their kindness, and then we wish to repay their kindness, and then naturally love and compassion can arise from that. And then the next point is to see the equality of self and others. They were all equal. Remember the Dalai Lama said, over here is this one knucklehead, and then over here there's 15 destitute people. And then who's more worthy of my compassion and regard? This sort of person, this knucklehead who happens to be me when I'm on a bad day, you might say, or these destitute people. And if you want to use logic, well, of course, these destitute people is more worthy to dedicate our efforts to their happiness than to just one person's happiness. Well, at least we get to what we want to do is get to the point where we feel like everyone's happiness is equally important. My happiness, we all equally want happiness. It's something that is, it's the one thing that makes us all equal. We equally want it as much as anybody else. And then you might say, well, people kill themselves. They must not want happiness. Well, I'm sorry, but suicide sometimes looks like relief. It looks like happiness because the pain of life is so difficult that people will commit suicide. I mean, it sounds crazy, but it happens every day. So, everybody wants to be happy and nobody wants to suffer. We're all equal that way. So important to see that we're all equal that way, because when whoever we're in front of, we can know something very intimate about that person. She wants happiness. She doesn't want to suffer. He wants happiness. He doesn't want to suffer. We could say that in our own mind silently, and we're right on the money, 1,000% of the time. That motivates everybody 100% of the time. Is trying to find happiness, trying to avoid suffering. Okay, and then we talked about the faults of self-cherishing. Right, all the problems come from one demon, the self-cherishing, self-centered attitude. That's the devil in Buddhism. That's the cause of all of our suffering. We look at the 10 non-virtues: killing, stealing, adultery, lying, slander, harsh, frivolous talk, greed, hatred, ignorance, all motivated by self-cherishing. Cherishing others is the source of all happiness. We cherish others. We save lives. We do the exact opposite of the 10 non-virtues, right? We don't kill, we save lives. We don't steal, we're generous. We give things away. We support others in meaningful ways and so on. So again, important, the faults of self-cherishing, the great value of cherishing others. Then we do this, next meditation is exchanging self-cherishing for cherishing others. So normally we think me, I, we cherish ourselves, but here we're switching the object of cherishing to others. And now I cherish you. In fact, neat little, a cool game is to label the other person that's in front of you, I, and look at that person and say, I wonder what I want. And you're really looking at them, right? But you're saying I, but we're exchanging self with others. What do I want? Well, I know exactly what you want. I know what you want. You want to be loved. You want to be happy. You want to be accepted. You want a good life. You want a meaningful life. I know exactly what you want. You don't want to be bad-mouthed. You don't want to be hurt. You don't want to be harmed. You want to live a long, fruitful life. So again, exchanging self-cherishing for cherishing others, very powerful practice, and it leads to the next point in bodhicitta, which is Tonglen, which we talked about at length last week. But again, using yourself as always, you always start Tonglen practice with yourself, and you could actually go back, but usually they tell you to think about today, tomorrow, next week, even maybe on your deathbed. Like, what is it going to be like for you on your deathbed? And what are you going to? What's going to be going through your mind? Are you going to be freaking out? Are you going to be composed? Are you going to be thinking about others' happiness, or freaking out about losing the only thing that you really know, which is I, is beginning to disappear, And so you imagine whatever suffering that you might experience on your deathbed, and you imagine that as black smoke, and it comes from your body, and it forms this orb, and it goes through your nostrils, and it goes right down, and it destroys this black mountain of self-cherishing, and it disappears, and our body's completely full of light, of love and compassion and kindness, and we breathe that light out, and we send that light of love and compassion and acceptance and so forth to ourselves. And may I be, how nice if I was happy, how nice if I was safe and had wisdom and compassion, how nice if all of these great things were happening to me, may they happen to me like that. We send out that light, and we Tonglen is about taking on our suffering and giving ourselves what we want and need. And then we work with loved ones, real people, not all sentient beings, because all sentient beings means nothing to anybody. Sorry, I'm going to speak for myself. It's too vague. It's too vague. We have to use real people and things that will touch our heart. Take your children, your family members, the people that you work with, the people that you care dearly about. Those are the people that you want to work with. Then gradually you work with neutral people, and then gradually able to work with even people that are your enemies, like that in Tonglen. But that's the beauty of that practice. So now, if you've done that practice well, you've embraced, you're willing to take on the suffering of all sentient beings, not just in this life, but in all past lifetimes and in all the realms of samsara, hell realms, hungry ghost, animal, human, jealous God, and God realm. Countless living beings were willing to take on all of their suffering right into our hearts, destroying our self-cherishing selfishness, giving them happiness and what they want and need, right? That's Tonglen. This is increasing our compassion as we take on the suffering of others and increasing our love by giving others happiness and what they want and need. And then we come to the last one. The next one is I must become this sort of supreme wish, this messianic vow. It's a vow. It's like, I must become enlightened. First of all, you look around and you see, oh my gosh, this place is such a mess. Everybody wants to be happy, but nobody's happy. We're just racing after we think that the causes of happiness, we mistaken the causes of happiness, and they're actually the causes of suffering, and we chase after them, and it causes so much misery. And we see how sentient beings are completely seduced by their mistaken perception of reality, and so we cling to the things that we see as delicious, and we feel aversion and fear and hatred for things that we see as not, as worthy of our hatred and aversion, and we make it real, and it causes all kinds of suffering, and it's based on a mistake. And so we say, I must become enlightened in order to liberate all sentient beings. It's that Dalai Lama calls it universal compassion. And then we come to bodhicitta, and it's like, wait a minute, I can't do this. Who could actually potentially do this? Only one being could do this, a Buddha, an enlightened Buddha, someone who had achieved their full potential, somebody who had eliminated all of their negativity, who had developed all of their positive qualities. And I mean, compassion. We all have some compassion, but it can be developed endlessly. We all have some wisdom. It can be developed endlessly. We all have some skillful means. We know which is the ability to know what to say and do to benefit others according to their predispositions. And we have some of that. It can be developed endlessly. We all have some power. It can be developed endlessly. These are the qualities of a Buddha, okay? The only person that can really guide others to supreme enlightenment is a Buddha, right? So we go, okay, I can't do it. I am such a mess. I'm a mess. I'm not there. I must eliminate my faults and develop my qualities and become enlightened for the sake of all sentient beings. And it's motivated by heartfelt love and compassion, not some sentimentality. It's like, these are my mothers. These are my family. These are people that I love and adore, and they're suffering. And I must become a Buddha in order to guide them from suffering to supreme enlightenment. By myself alone, I've got to become a Buddha. So what do? I got to practice the Lam Rim. I got to practice renunciation, bodhicitta, and emptiness. I got to practice Tantra. I got to practice six perfections. Remember? Generosity, ethics, patience, enthusiastic perseverance or joyful effort. That's taking joy in the practice of virtue, concentration and wisdom. We've got to practice, in the Theravada tradition, they talk about, ethics, concentration, and wisdom. In the Mahayana tradition, we often just talk about renunciation, bodhicitta, and emptiness. But then this Tantra, because from a Buddhist perspective, the only way to really become enlightened is to develop our fullest potential. And the only possible way to do that is through the practice of Tantra, where we harness the subtlest of minds. Subtle equals powerful. The subtlest of mind, the clear light consciousness, we harness that mind to cut through all the delusions and to accelerate the development of all the qualities. It's like the difference between rowing a boat from here to London or taking like, a Lear, like the fastest jet in the world, a rocket ship. Tantra works when it's done by a skilled practitioner who's qualified and who's led by a skilled guru. They can accomplish Buddhahood in as little as 3 years. That's the claim. Sounds like a marketing, but it is the claim. So, and then the last point is emptiness, isn't it? We talk about renunciation, bodhicitta, and emptiness. What is emptiness? Emptiness is just basically, Lama Yeshe used to say, look, it's like glorified paint stripping. He said, right now, if you open your eyes, if you open your ears, you'll be hearing things. You'll be seeing things. If you were eating something, you'd be tasting things. If you were being touched, whatever experience you're having through the 6 senses, including the mental consciousness, you're having experiences. The one that's most easiest for us to relate to right now is visual. Everything looks so real. Lama Yeshe says, that's not how it is. We have projected ignorance has caused us to project a false reality, and we believe it and we react to it. And in reacting to it, we create tons and tons of negative karma. So we have to see things as they are. How things don't exist independently, inherently, in and of themselves, as they appear to be. Would anybody like to debate that? The Dalai Lama said, how could anybody refute that? It's so obvious. Things seem to exist from their own side. You got that? They seem to exist from their own side. They seem to be permanent. They seem to be independent. They seem to be inherently existent. He said, that is how our world appears to us. Sounds appear that way. Smells appear that way. Sights, thoughts, everything appears that way. And it's not the way that things exist. They come into existence, or the way they truly exist is in dependence upon causes and conditions, parts, and most importantly and most subtly, a consciousness that labels things. Our mind labels our reality. Our mind creates our reality, moment to moment. Our whole, boom, 60 mind moments in a finger snap. Billions of karmic seeds have ripened today for us to be born, to wake up today and see the sunrise and not be dead. And these karmas will run out. And, it's like, where are these, we're saying everything depends upon a thought that labels it. Well, where do the labels come from? Now, this is an important question. This is something you have to know. Where do the labels come from? Anybody? No, you got to say something. Speak up, please.
Our minds.
Our mind, but where does it come from? It's our karma. It comes from our former actions. Remember, karma, actions of body, speech, and mind, plant potencies on the mind stream that ripen in the future. Well, for us right now, the future is now for the karma that is ripening at this moment to see yourself, at the Kadampa Center or at wherever you are, listening to teachings on bodhicitta and all of this other stuff, and listen to Don Brown prattle on. It's this is our mind. This is our karma ripening, forcing us to have an experience of reality. Our karma is ripening, forcing you and me to see and hear and feel and experience ourselves the way we do. We cannot change what has happened. The future we have some choice about, but the karma karma's that way. So all of these frames that are creating our reality. They come from our former actions. So that's why ethics is so important in Buddhism. 2/3 of the Buddhist teachings are on ethics. Why? Because that's how we create positive karma. And that's how we create positive karma is the cause of happiness and enlightenment. And so we have to live our life ethically. We cannot harm ourselves. We can't harm others. We have to learn. And that's something we have to learn. So I'm going to read something, 2 things, and then we're going to wrap it up. This is passed out. Is this on the online?
I can pull it up to share, actually, if you'd like
Okay.
me to do that.
So this I've held onto. I went to some teachings on the 8 verses of mind training, and I have kept this. It's on my mirror behind me at work. It's at my house. I look at it all the time, and I think about it. And my kids think I'm crazy. I give it to them. I mail them copies of it every 6 months because I want them to see it. But it's really cool. So this is what the first. So this is sort of gleaned from these 8 verses of mind training. If you want happiness in this life, the only possible way is by serving others. If you want happiness in this life, and you see, this is all about bodhicitta. If you want happiness in this life, the only possible way is by serving others. Serve even those that attack you. Devote your life to giving others what they want and need. Reality is constructed that way. Remember, I just talked about it. Our reality is constructed that way. By serving others, we create positive karma that plants seeds that ripen as happiness. We are forced to see ourselves as happy. So reality is constructed that way. The wisdom of emptiness and reality makes this the only logical choice. So we have to dedicate our lives to the service of others. And it's just not a good idea. It's how reality is constructed. We need to reach the point in our personal spiritual practice where we focus on others' good qualities. Now listen to that one, because that one's hard. We need to reach the point in our personal spiritual practice where we focus on others' good qualities. In reality, they're swimming in good qualities. This is the first step to taking care of others. You know, I was listening to one of my daughters last night. Well, I'm not going to go into it, but I mean, it's so easy to find fault in others, isn't it? They're so full. People are so flawed by our perception, by our egocentric perception. But we need to focus on their good qualities. They have good qualities. But if we focus on their bad qualities, it just creates separation, and it doesn't make compassion or kindness or things to go well. We need to focus on others' good. We need to make an effort to look for and focus on others' good qualities, because they have far more good qualities than they have negative ones. But our ego wants to focus on their shortcomings. He's too short. She's too tall. He's too fat. He's too skinny. He's ugly. She's too pretty. I don't like her. Whatever. Or I want her. Or whatever. So we need to focus on others' good qualities. All right. The next one's create the special. This is what I've already gone over. Create a special relationship with people who are nasty to you. Create a special relationship with people who are nasty to you. One good enemy at work. Now we got one of those at work now. There's more than one, but really they're not my enemies. But they're people at work that that always get on each other's nerves. You always hear about that. One good enemy at work is more precious than the Dalai Lama for you. Why is that? Because that person can teach you patience. That person can teach you about karma. If that person's yelling at you, it's because you did it before in the past. So stop yelling at people. If you don't want to get yelled at, don't yell at other people. If you don't want to have harsh things said to you, don't speak harshly. If you want to get stuff, you have to give stuff. What goes around comes around. So, but the Dalai Lama is saying one good enemy Oh, he said that they're so precious because that's how you develop patience. And that's how you become a bodhisattva. And that's how you get enlightened. So you need to have difficult people in your life. So they're so precious. We should cherish these nasty people in our lives. Look at the people you live with as your ticket to enlightenment. Look at the people you live with as your ticket to enlightenment. All right, now I'm not going to answer that. Somebody tell me why that would be so. I need to take a break. Tell me why that's so. The people you live with are your ticket to enlightenment.
They are the ones who give you the greatest opportunity to practice patience. Your perfect teacher is the worst enemy is your perfect teacher.
Absolutely. And they're also the object of us to develop love and compassion, aren't they? I mean, and actually feel it. You know, our children.
Generosity, ethics, joyful effort, it's all there.
Pardon?
Along with developing joyful effort in the way you treat them in your relationship and
Yeah.
and behaving ethically and acting ethically in that way. Patience is foremost, as well as generosity. So yeah,
All the six perfection we
we
can practice in relationship to these people. The 10 non-virtuous actions, avoiding those and practicing the 10 virtuous actions in relation to others. And as I said earlier, I really have this is something that I think we take for granted when we say all sentient beings. Oh, may I become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings, when I have no clue what all sentient beings means. It doesn't touch my heart. But if I want to become enlightened so I can help my children be happy and fulfilled human beings and have a good life and have good character and have good, good ethics and have all of that. If I can do that, how wonderful it would be. Or my spouse or the people I live with, real people. We need to work with real people. Make it real. Don't make it some eerie theory, because others are infinite. But when we hear the word others, it's singular. It seems like it's singular, doesn't it? Others seems like, oh, that's just one person, others. But it's infinite. There are countless others. And so, again, look at the people you live with, your ticket to enlightenment. I'm in a class right now, thank you. My daughter. If you cannot get rid of the habit, this one's good. I should have let her in on this. Come on back. If you can't get rid of the habit of taking care of yourself first, above what others need, you won't succeed in achieving happiness. Now, just take a bite off of that. If you cannot get rid of the habit of taking care of yourself first, above what others need, you will not succeed in achieving happiness. If you cannot get rid of the habit of taking care of yourself first, I'm the most important one. Get out of my way. I want that piece of cake. I want that last piece of candy. I, me, I, I'll tell you what I did. When I first read this, I was at a class. There were 200 people there, and I had put my shoes right at the beginning, right so I could be the first person to get my shoes when I got ready to leave. The next class I came to, I put my shoes at the very end. Because I said, I got to practice this, because I spent my whole life looking after me, because I thought that was the cause of happiness, is looking after number one. Turns out that's the cause of misery. If I focus on me, I, it only causes suffering. There's no way to succeed in achieving happiness. Next one, at anytime you have a relationship with somebody else, they should come out ahead. Whoa, listen to that one. Anytime you have a relationship with somebody else, they should come out ahead. Take the loss yourself and give them all the gain. To the extent you're able to give everything you can to others, let's see, to the extent that you're able to give everything you can to others. Make a career of it. It's the antithesis of self-cherishing, isn't it? It's the antithesis of our biggest enemy. It's cherishing others. So anytime you have you have a relationship with somebody else, make sure they come out ahead. Now, of course, there are outliers. I'm not saying that there wouldn't be situations where this wouldn't apply, but this is something that we need to make a career of. When you get in line, let other people get in front of you. What's the big deal? Why do you have to be the first in line? Why do I have to be the first in line? All right, and just aside, last one, then we'll wrap it up. And then I got 4 stanzas. Just decide that you're going to be last in line, always last. Try it. This practice can immediately make you happy. Try it for 10% of the day, today and tomorrow. So just tomorrow, and just for tomorrow, decide that you're going to be last. Just 10% of the time. Try this practice. It has the potential to make you immediately happy. And then somebody asked Lama Atisha, he was the founder of the Kadampa lineage, and one of his students, Jerome, asked him, give me the essence of your teachings. And this is the essence of his teachings, which sounds like, it doesn't sound like the 11 points to develop bodhicitta, but this is what Lama Atisha said. Reveal your own shortcomings, but do not seek out others' errors. Conceal your own good qualities, but proclaim those of others. Forsake gifts and ministrations. At all times relinquish gain and fame. Have modest desires, be easily satisfied, and reciprocate kindness. Cultivate love and compassion, and stabilize your awakening mind. That's bodhicitta. Lama Atisha said, that's all I taught. He said, that's it. That's all you need to know. That's all I taught. Cultivate love and compassion and stabilize your awakening mind, which is bodhicitta. So he said, there's nothing other than this. So that's kind of cool. Good note to finish on. All right. So anybody has questions, now's not a good time to answer them, ask because we're over. But actually, I'll stick around if you do. But let's do the dedication because I know people are tired, had a long, hard day, and I've been rambling. But yeah, so we get to wrap this thing up. And so I'm gonna say, can you make that a little bit bigger because my glasses aren't working? So we have, those of you who have participated, I want to thank you. Those of you who have, just showed up is awesome. Showed up and done the homework and the meditations, incredible. And showed up and done all those things and actually gained some experience of the meanings of these words, like even more amazing. So we have planted individually and collectively incredible amount of positive karmic seeds that, according to the laws of karma, absolutely will ripen in our future happiness. And we want to dedicate it not just in getting a Tesla, although that would be nice, but we want to dedicate these seeds of virtue for supreme enlightenment, for all beings, and us, for everybody. We're part of all beings. So we're going to say these dedication verses with this in mind. And as you say the verses, if you want to add a little bit of something to it, imagine that beams of light are going out to your heart and they're going out to countless sentient beings in all the realms of the universe, because now they're finding new universes, for goodness sakes. You know, Elon Musk, there's no telling where he's going to end up. You know, there are a lot of places that living beings could be. So we're going to send on beams of light, you know, this energy, all this positive karma that we've created individually and collectively to universal living beings, and for them to all become enlightened. And we'll do that. We'll think about that as we do the dedication verses. Okay, we'll do this together. Just take a deep breath and let all this settle for a second. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid of a little, with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked, may the naked find clothing and the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drink. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvest. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may these never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then, may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. And one other thing we want to dedicate, you know, I'd like to personally ask everyone to dedicate the merit of our class, again, to the happiness of and long life of our precious Mahayana gurus, most particularly His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Gensel Rinpoche, and Geshe Gelik, and all of our teachers, but most particularly right now, Geshe Lama Zopa Rinpoche. There's some obstacles to his health, and I saw this online, and so we want to dedicate all the merit as much as possible. These merits to Lama Zopa's. Any obstacles to his health could be completely eradicated, and that he live a long and healthy life and be able to continue to benefit, you know, countless living beings in a myriad of different ways. Amen. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much,
Everyone.
Don. So just a reminder again, we're on a 3-week break for Discovering Buddhism, and we'll start back up in June 20th for Transforming Problems. Of course, if you feel the desire, all of our classes here at the Kadampa Center are free of charge. And if you'd like to donate, you can go to the Kadampa Center website and hit the donate button. And there's numerous ways. It's on the information sheet that's posted on the homework. Thank you all so much. Look forward to seeing you in June. Thank you, Don.
Okay, thank you.
Bye, Tara.
My
Bye, Dinesh.
pleasure.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Donna.
Thanks, Don. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Olga. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Everyone.